Many young people in China today have fallen out of love with the idea of love.
想找对象，但是又不想所有时间全耗在这个找对象上面了。
一个男人或女人太烦，这也是为什么现在年轻人里面养猫养狗的特别多。
And no longer wed to the idea of marriage.
首先，我的观点就是活在当下，结不结婚也没关系。
With marriage and fertility rates at record lows in China.
每4个年轻人里面最多只有1个小孩，哇，这个就太恐怖了啊！
What is standing in the way of young Chinese and true love? At a casual glance, this verdant and genteel park in central Beijing looks like a popular spot for the elderly. This is Zhongshan Park, and these elderly parkgoers are on a mission to find the perfect spouse for their unmarried adult child. These are called matchmaking corners, and just like in the flea market, parents advertise their children's virtues, hoping to attract prospective takers. This parent's daughter is 38 years old and 1.68 meters tall. She's looking for a man who's at least 1.75 meters tall, with a stable job, and who preferably owns an apartment in Beijing. Another parent has a 46-year-old son who works in a state-owned enterprise. Similar matchmaking corners can be found in major Chinese cities like Guangzhou and Shanghai.
现在孩子们都很挑剔的，
我觉得都是家长在那挑的，包括我也是家长嘛，都是家长在那设了一个门槛。
Marriage rates in China have plummeted. About 6.8 million couples tied the knot last year, the lowest since records began in 1986. In the last decade alone, the number of marriages has halved. Understandably, some of these elderly folk with dreams of becoming grandparents are worried.
孩子年龄大了，我希望我的孩子有个后代，这样立国也立我们自己。
Decline in marriage is a global phenomenon. About 9 out of 10 of us live in countries with falling nuptials. The reasons are complex, but it can be traced to social and demographic changes.
Marriage as an institution has been seen differently. It's not been seen as one person is a breadwinner and one person is taking care of the children anymore. It has transitioned from a stage where people are looking for companionship to an era where people are looking for love and personal satisfaction.
But while marriage is less popular almost everywhere, it is of particular concern for China. Traditionally, familial ties are important threads in the Chinese social fabric. Confucianism emphasizes marriage and family. And President Xi Jinping has called families the cells of society.
Since marriage has been the most important social institution for China's stability, if one thing that Chinese government value more than anything else, it is stability. There is nothing more concerning than having a bunch of young people not married, concerning about their job prospects, and not being able to get date or a future wife or husband.
At Zhongshan Park, 27-year-old Qian Lei cuts an odd figure. She's not to look for a romantic partner for herself, but she's there to help Chinese parents find a good match for their unmarried children. Qian Lei is a bona fide Hongniang or matchmaker.
我就去这个北京著名的相亲角，中山公园啊，还有天坛这样相亲角，我去帮他们找对象。我觉得父母真的也是挺辛苦的啊，这是一个很特殊的群体，是父母帮孩子找对象的群体，所以呢，我就觉得也是想帮助父母。
Claiming that she has made over 50 successful matches, Tian offers some insight into why young Chinese are not coupling up.
一般比如说他到相亲市场上找，其实他之前其实他可能就比如男生，他要不然就是他很挑，就是他虽然说我硬件条件啊没有什么要求，但是呢，他有一个要求可能就是合眼缘儿，这个时候可能就比较挑人。另外呢，或者有的那个男生就是说可能本身条件不是很好，就是他被女生挑，就是说他自己本身条件又不满足女生的这个什么，可能身高又不行，然后呢，或者是女生可能第一看重身高啊，身高必须得1.7米以上。
And there is one eligibility criterion unique to China: a would-be suitor's hukou, or household register. This document determines where a Chinese citizen can reside.
另外呢，然后他可能说是没有北京户口，或者没有北京住房。因为女生虽然说啊，就是说她真的是要求对方有北京户口、北京住房，她如果都没有的话呢，这样男生他也是很不好找的。
This pickiness might seem superficial, but it reflects the changing view of love and marriage in China. The country's rapid development has created a mismatch between what men and women want.
There is a clear difference in what women are looking for and what men are looking for. Especially in Chinese cities, it's quite clear that most women are looking for love and most men are looking for a wife. The difference in their purpose also cause a very different attitude. And we have seen a lot of frustration when it comes to actually closing the deal on both sides on whether they want to get married. Because for Chinese women, they're getting way better educated.
In 1999, the government pushed for the expansion of higher education. At that time, women made up about 20% of Chinese higher education. By 2019, 52% of university students are women, overtaking male enrollment.
In China's case, tertiary education is a very important point to make, that women's tertiary education enrollment had passed that of men's for a decade already. And that's one of the reasons, as women's education increase, of course, their economic independency has increased.
一个女人，你生孩子又要在黄金年龄生，比如说我们假设黄金年龄是28到35，我已经延期了一段时间，那这也是女性追求事业的黄金年龄。那如果你去生孩子，那你的工作怎么办？所以如果她处于这个阶段，她还是想找年轻的，主要她考虑的还是生孩子的问题。然后这就是男生为什么不太愿意接受找就是年纪稍微不能说大吧，就是稍微成熟一点姐姐的这个主要原因，主要就是还是考虑生育问题。
This has led to the term 剩女, or leftover women. It is a derogatory term describing single women in their late 20s or 30s deemed undesirable due to their age. At 28, Zhao Miao Miao is approaching that category, though she isn't too concerned. She has been using online dating apps as well as the services of a matchmaker to find love.
我自己的话是28岁了嘛，然后我接触的至少都说比我大嘛，那比我大的男生都在30多岁，甚至说到38岁的左右的我都接触到过。然后我们聊的时候，他们也非常直接的告诉我说，我希望我不在乎未来的我的老婆另一半她挣钱有多少，但是我更希望她能够顾好我们的家庭，顾好我父母我们之间的关系，然后能把家庭照顾好。
In conservative China, marriage is seen as a necessary step to having kids. Until recently, only married women are legally allowed to register their children. But last year, the country's population declined for the first time in 60 years. The falling marriage rate does not bode well for China's demographic picture.
a lower marriage rate, caused mostly by delay of age of marriage, is a major and a main determinant of the low fertility rate in China and in other Asian countries as well. Unless you raise marriage rate, there's no way that fertility will come up.
China's population decline is the result of decades of the one-child policy. And, ironically, the one-child policy could, in turn, be responsible for marriage decline.
独生子女真的很特别的，他们从出生的那天开始，他们的欲望需要立刻马上就会满足，就是爷爷奶奶、外公外婆，包括父母都是围着这个孩子转的，所以我们叫小太阳。所以他的所有的需求都会立刻被满足，尽量被满足，然后同时他的坏脾气都会被包容。
According to one study by the Ohio State University, only children are less likely to get married compared to those with siblings. Each additional sibling is associated with a 3% increase in the odds of getting married. The argument is that siblings provide kids with opportunities to negotiate conflict at home. These skills can help children navigate friendships and romantic relationships later in life. Only children are also likely to be more independent and value their alone time. China has a whole generation made up of only children.
One-child policy generation. So for those people, they grew up on their own. Then naturally, they are more individualistic than the previous generations.
那么所以他要建立婚姻的时候，其实是要交出你的个性，一点点个性，交出你的一点点自由。然后另外你要注意对方的需求，我们所需要的相互的谦让。互相的将就，然后要很快的识别对方的需求，做一个积极的回应。这一代年轻人独生子女可能在责任和交出自我、磨合、相互将就的这种社会化的这种过程中是有缺失的。
Chasing individual desires, a group of Chinese youths are calling themselves the Moonlight Clan. What is the Moonlight Clan? And what are their attitudes towards romantic relationships? Friday night, Beijing. At the end of a stressful week at work, the 23-year-old Jin looks forward to chilling out with his friends. One night out like this, paying for food, drinks and taxi rides, can cost a pretty penny. Jin spent $140 partying the night away. And for the young teacher, this puts a sizable dent on his monthly salary of $1,000.
现在没有多少存款、备用金，其他方面等等都没有其他的了，然后都已经给用完了，而且现在加上咱们国内大环境也知道，就是现在很多年轻人都是喜欢内卷，太卷了，因为现在也确实卷不过人家。
Jin and his friends identify as part of a growing phenomenon in China, known as the Moonlight Clan, or 月光族。
我身边是有这样的朋友。月光族呢，其实就是从字面意思来说，就是月金光不剩什么钱，就是当月的工资到手，其实过完这个就是不剩多少了。如果说除去日常开销啊，比如说租房子的压力、生活压力成本，其实到手其实不是就根本就不剩什么钱了。
The 月光族 or the Moonlight Club is such a new concept. It usually refers to young people that will spend everything they earn every month So some of them are also deeply in debt because they now have access to online borrowing and lending. Platforms like Alipay or JD Finance have provided a new channel for them to borrow.
所以跟年轻人交往很多，我会看到他们穿的那种运动鞋，都是那种顶级品牌的运动鞋，8000到1万多块钱一双的。他们的整个消费，就如果你收入低呢，你也会把它全部花完。
They are spending, go and living paycheck by paycheck. Every month they get the money they get, they spend them all. They kind of just given up on saving, but live in the moment. If I have enough to enjoy this month's a little bit of luxuries, then I do.
For the youth of the Moonlight Clan, this live for today attitude leaves them ambivalent about the future.
Most people who are still thinking of getting married are serious about their financial stability and ability to save up for a house, for their children's education and all of that. For this group of people, the prospect of saving is not there. So the prospect of getting married is just going to be very low.
投下去，双手抱住，吐气，吐气。
24-year-old Liu Shutong is a media executive in Beijing. She has a boyfriend, although she doesn't say much about him. Liu readily identifies as part of the Moonlight Clan.
一般都花在可能第一个就是正常开销，第二个就是可能兴趣爱好，就是比例大概是各占就按50%算吧。现在的年轻人可能更以自己当下的就是开心程度为主吧，就是觉得可能我在当下就是享乐主义嘛。比如说像我们这种人，可能就是吸引到的周边的人都是这种人，就是第一个就是月光族，然后觉得没有储蓄是正常的，而且正在就是很享受这个没有储蓄的这个过程当中。到我们这个年龄段的话，我们觉得就是不管是结婚也好，恋爱也好，都是我们的选择。然后你可能就是愿意选择结婚也好，不愿意选择结婚也好，都是很开心的。我当前的这个看待这个问题的话，就是活在当下，然后结不结婚都无所谓。
According to a CCTV report in 2021, 2 out of 5 singles in Tier 1 cities in China belong to the Moonlight Clan. With around 220 million singles in China that same year, this adds up to a sizable number.
比如说您是月光族，那可能说对对方的话，那可能对方一看你这个情况，一聊起来，就觉得不太合适。另外一方面，对方呢也会觉得你可能不太适合将来去成家，毕竟将来成家的话呢，还是2个人要一起过日子的。
As the youth delay financial security, they also delay marriage.
The latest official figures from 2021, out of 1,000 people in population, only 5.4 are married. And that is only half the amount from 10 years ago. So there's a drastic decline in China's marriage rate. When it comes to the marriage age, for men and women, they have both been increasing quite drastically. For women, it is about 29 years old, and for men, it's about 30.
Delay in marriage is common as countries develop. More time spent in school and the focus on careers mean that marriage gets kicked down the road. In China, their unique brand of hustle culture is known as 996. Popularized by Alibaba founder Jack Ma, this refers to working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week.
你可能一天都在公司里待着，从早上9点到晚上9点，那你只能跟身边这些 很少数的人去相处。然后如果你是在那种大小周的公司，一周要上班6天，然后只有周天1天休息，你也很难去抽出时间再出去玩，因为你可能只有1天的休息时间，你就想躺在家里。
Jin spends more than 10 hours working a day, including teaching, administrative paperwork, and preparing for the next day's lesson. He hardly has time for himself, much less the energy to look for a significant other.
我现在除了工作，就是回到家，每天工作就很累，其实不太想去愿意再花时间去社交。与其花这些时间，我不如在家里舒舒服服地躺在床上，然后看着电视，打会儿游戏，或者跟朋友一起去吃喝。我觉得这种生活也挺快乐。想找对象，但是又不想去花那么多时间，把这个所有时间全耗在这个找对象上面了。所以就是有就有，没有就自己单过着。
From Tanping, or lying flat, to Bailan, or let it rot, and now the Moonlight Clan. There is a sense of ennui among Chinese youths, part of which can be pinned to the slowdown of the Chinese economy.
In financial crisis time, it's always either in Japan, Korea, Southeast Asia, 1997 financial crisis, or 2008 the global recession, or the most recent pandemic. Every time there's financial difficulties, the marriage rates are going to go down because people usually delay these major life events.
When you look at Chinese young people, you do have to feel a bit more sympathetic on their status now, because the latest unemployment rate for Chinese young people between the age of 16 and 24 is above 20% now, and that is higher than most European countries, and it's absolutely new phenomenon for China. And for them, the economic cost and the pressure to maintain a balanced life is just so high. Besides eating and sleeping, for a lot of them, they simply don't have the energy or financial means to maintain a relationship.
Despite the current slowdown, China's economy has progressed rapidly in the past 3 decades. But societal values have not kept up, including gender roles. The result? A mismatch between what men and women want in a marriage.
从我的角度来看，我觉得男生还是比较困难去接受女生赚的比他多，因为男生还是觉得自己在家庭要占据主导地位。
他会觉得我结婚过后，我要为男生啊，我要为妻子负责，然后同时我要就是为孩子负责。他突然发现拿不出这篇预算了。
With China's gloomy economic outlook, this leaves men like Jin feeling pessimistic about their marriage prospects.
因为自己都是没有收入的话，就收入太少，不能保证的说能给这个女孩一个很好的家庭。如果说这样的话，与其这样，就是会考虑不结婚。如果说我自己都照顾不好，我连家庭照顾不好，我不敢去想象去有孩子。
At the same time, China's social conservatism is at odds with the country's decades-long push for female empowerment, encapsulated by Mao Zedong's famous phrase, "Women hold up half the sky."
中国从传统往现代转型的这种过程非常的短，其他国家和地区也许是经历了50年、100年，但我们就是在区这20年到30年里面发生的这样的一个现象。
After you get married, all the housework and the responsibility for childbearing and child caring would fall mostly in China still. Mainly on women's shoulders. But now women actually have higher socioeconomic status. So all these are direct cost and opportunity cost of getting married is really, really high for women these days. And so since marriage is no longer a necessity, a lot of women hesitate to go in.
As a result, among the urban youth, almost half of Chinese women now have no desire for marriage, compared to about a quarter of the men. Nonetheless, there is still a sizable proportion of young Chinese who haven't given up on love, and they're hoping to get hitched with tech.
DNA.
After graduation, 28-year-old Zhao Miao moved to Shanghai, China's financial capital, about 3 years ago. As her career in finance took off, Miao felt it was time to look for a significant other.
我是差不多从去年，也就是22年的9月份，差不多开始了一系列的相亲这样子。
Marriage rates may have fallen in China, but the majority of Chinese youth still want to find love. And for those who do, dating apps and online meetups are a godsend to time-starved youths.
主要的渠道就是通过相亲的 APP 来进行认识人，因为上面的人基数也比较大嘛，所以我感觉它是效率比较高。然后认识就是见了蛮多的人吧，差不多线下见了有100多个男生。其实我感觉这个量还是挺大的，大概也就是3个多月、4个月的时间。
所以对于年轻人来说，工作的这个压力还有时长限制，也是导致大家就是非常。可能比以前更少的机会接触人，所以这也是为什么现在线上这个相亲交友 APP 也比较火爆的原因。因为大家在家里晚上休息的时候，可能打开手机点一点，发现看看能不能遇到这种心上人，这也是为什么现在这个火爆的一个点吧。
Chinese youths have fallen in love with dating apps. The 3 most popular platforms, Momo, Tantan and Seoul, have 150 million active users combined. In one survey, 9 out of 10 respondents said they've used a dating app at least once.
In Chinese cities, using dating app is a new trend. Many more people between the age of 16 to 34 are using the dating apps. Some of them are foreign, like Tinder or Bumble. Some of them are domestic. You will see and hear examples of success. People do find long-term partners or even husbands and wives through the dating app. But most of the time, it's more like a social app. People get together, become friends, or establish some short-term relationships.
But dating apps do not always translate into nuptials. In one US study, while 4 in 10 dating app users are looking for marriage, only 1 in 10 actually get engaged or married through the platform. There are arguments that dating apps promote hookup culture, where users are more interested in flings rather than something long-term. This has been Miao's experience.
男生相亲，他首先考虑的可能是性方面，就是 sexy 方面嘛，所以他首先看这个女生好不好看，然后其次再去了解性格啊、家境方面的。女生的话，她可能更看重。一开始就可能更看重这个男生的诚意，比如说你希望这个男生来追我，你追我的时候有没有付出，然后是不是比较真诚。
So, while dating apps are immensely popular, more traditional methods are still important in China. Introductions by friends, joining social activities, and of course, 相亲 or matchmaking.
When you look at different surveys, the way people meeting a potential mate is not that different from 20 years ago. They still meet new people at work, through friends, through family. In around 2010, there was this new trend, 相亲, like the arranged dating. usually through parents. They would match backgrounds of their daughters and sons and try to set up dates on their behalf. This trend still continues because for many of urban young generation, they don't have enough time to really get into the dating market, to try and error, basically.
35-year-old Hao Wenxi is an artist in Beijing. He shared that he was single and looking for Miss Right since he was in his early 20s. But he was unlucky in love for almost 8 years.
大概我也有2到3年左右的一个相亲认识朋友的这个经历吧，觉得是特别难的，见了各种人，但是成功率比较低。如果我那个倒退5、6年那个时候去看的话，我最大的痛点就在于我不会谈恋爱，我不知道如何去产生魅力，成为一个有交付的人，有情感价值的人，这个我不知道。我只是说我挣的工资可能比你高，我家里可能有1套房，对吧？这个其实跟100年前农民谈恋爱是一样，我家里有2头牛，是吧？有3亩地。
But Hao wanted to find love and eventually to get married and start a family. So he was game to try the different dating options.
其实，我父亲啊，经常去北京的中山公园和天坛公园这种相亲角，就是老人嘛，他们叔叔阿姨在一起，为孩子呢去介绍，这是途径之一。通过这个途径呢，其实我在2到3年当中呢，大概见了大概也得有20、30位是有的。
On top of using dating apps, Zhao Miao too has engaged the services of a professional matchmaker to find Mr. Right.
我就去拓展了线下红娘的渠道，也就是去找了婚介机构，那个也是比较偶然间发现的吧，然后就去花了一小部分的费用去让红娘帮我介绍，这样子的话我自己就是少了很多筛选的时间，我感觉也是一个比较节省时间的方式吧。然后红娘那边介绍的就是我会把我的那个要求跟他们讲，然后他们就会帮我挑选，然后1对1安排线下见面，这样子我觉得也蛮好的。
Hao had tried giving dating apps a go, but found them a mixed bag.
确实是，有帮助，但是呢，仅仅是流于表面的，尤其是像比较传统的这个，像我是88年的，我们这个年龄段，他在那个用这种相亲软件的时候，肯定是存在信任的这种成本的。就是实际上了解一个人，仅仅通过线上这么聊的话，其实还是比较，不好去了解。对，就像和一个人认识并且走向这个婚姻成家的话，它需要有很多必要条件，不只是照片。
线上的优点就在于你基数大，可以同时认识很多人。但是线下的话，你红娘她就是基本上每次只给你介绍一个，会比较有助于你们好好的去了解，深入的去了解。而且就是线下的话，大家都是说实话，费用掏的不算少，可能至少也有个上千上万这样子。那你至少说这个人的身份他是经过认证的，所以相对来说提高了这个靠谱的效率。
对，我喜欢组队。
Tian Lei, a professional matchmaker, finds dating apps superficial.
效率特别低，
效率特别低，而且会自我怀疑，因为它的可选项太多了，它信息量太大了，所以它导致它的一个就不会那么专注，然后或者说，哎，这个行，然后这个就继续聊下去啊，或者争取见面什么，他会说，哎，不行，那就可能2天不回复啊，他就算了，就换一个，它是这么一个情况，就是因为像现在人家就每个人的话，他的那个信息爆炸呀。然后他会有很多的选择，所以比如说他不会专注在一个事儿很长时间。
So dating app has become one of the useful tools to meet new people. It doesn't necessarily guarantee success, but using dating app give people sort of the illusion that you will always have the next choice. Just swipe left, swipe right, then you always have more choices down the line. It is very new. I think the society is adjusting to it. It doesn't necessarily create more happiness among couples or among the young generation, but I guess it's one of this new reality that China as a whole has to accustom to.
For Hao, his, or rather, his father's efforts eventually paid off. Through Zhongshan Park, he met his current wife, a medical doctor. They dated for a year before tying the knot, and they now have a 4-year-old son. As for Zhao, despite striking out so far, she prefers to look at the silver lining.
像我自己，如果说一个女生，她在认识了很多男生，然后认清了找对象是一件特别不容易的事儿之后，还愿意相信爱情，愿意去找的话，我觉得这是一件特别值得鼓励的事情。而且她在就是找对象的过程中，一定会越来越认识到自己适合什么样的人，自己需要什么样的一个男生。我想要的是一段高质量的婚姻，但是目前我认识的人满足不了我，所以他们想跟我在一起，但是我还是拒绝了。所以我宁愿单身。我觉得单身对于我现在来说是一个很好的状态，我也很享受我现在单身的状态，我觉得很开心。
While Zhao may be content, the government is not. The party is increasingly worried about the impact of falling marriages on Chinese society.
On Singapore Tonight.
China is facing a demographic crisis. An aging population, combined with declining marriage and birth rates, has the government fretting.
If there's low marriage rate, more people are living alone by themselves. That has implication for social cohesion as well. Of course, living alone does not mean loneliness necessarily, but it could mean isolation and potentially more loneliness, sense of loneliness, and mental health issues.
There is a unique dimension to China's concern over falling nuptial numbers. If people don't get married, they don't have children.
The declining in the marriage rate is not a big concern for the Western societies because the correlation between marriage and birth rate is not that strong. People can still have children, even if they're not married. But in China, the correlation between marriage and birth is almost 100%. Because for unmarried single women, it's almost impossible to register the children with the hukou system. Hukou system is this household registration system that can allow a citizen to get access to healthcare and education. Young couples in China, it's almost a requirement for them to get married first before they can have children.
The declining birth rate has been a serious concern for the Chinese government. When the one-child policy was abandoned in 2015, the fertility rate was 1.67 births per woman, which was already below the replacement rate of 2.0. By 2022, this fell further to 1.2.
如果按照现在的出生率，到了2050年的时候，也就是我需要养老的时候，这个60岁以上的老年人将会占中国人口的1半，它会让整个的这种人口结构处于一个极其这种不健康的这种状态。
To buck this trend, the government is trying all means to encourage marriage and childbirth. One sticking point has been the price of housing. Multiple studies show that house costs are negatively correlated with marriage rates. When real estate prices go up, the number of marriages fall.
房子就是房价比较高嘛，就调控了这么久，还是调控不住。现在慢慢确实这个购房率是有下降的，就包括在深圳也好，在上海也好，这个购房率整体来说好像是，我看数据好像是有一点点下降。如果说未来大家就是政府能够真的能够调控房价，可能会好一点，这是其一。
Now, at least 13 cities across China provide housing subsidies for families with at least 2 or 3 children. local governments are also giving one-time housing coupons to families for home purchases.
比如说有那个购房险，就比如说你买房的话，国家会有补贴，而且现在国家对于住房的那个补贴政策会很大。
我相信啊，未来不久可能国家会出台，这种就是年轻人的婚房，然后这个婚房呢就可以很便宜的让你居住，愿意这个结婚，那么这个房子就很廉价的租给你啊。如果你愿意生孩子，也许这个房子就很便宜的卖给你。
Housing cost is such a big issue these days in China, and if some more subsidies and other ways to think of to provide incentives for young people, then they could think they would be able to have a house to get married and settle down. I think that would help a lot.
Housing is one issue, but what about falling in love in the first place? Some schools in China have given students extra vacation time to socialize. Meanwhile, single female employees in some companies are entitled to 8 extra days of annual leave. The purpose? To go home and date.
企业通过那个缩短员工的加班时间以及节假日的这么一个政策，可能是释放了员工的那个时间，但是他释放了时间之后，他有没有他的这个主观能动性去找朋友，去结交朋友？这也是根据每个人的性格不一样，很多因素会影响到这些。然后，但不一定是释放那个员工的时间，减少压力。
如果他想谈恋爱，他比如对方足够吸引他，他也会抽出时间。比如他有这个时间去玩手机，有这个时间去玩游戏，然后看剧，他怎么就没有时间去跟对方去见一面去交流呢？人生他就习惯了说啊，我2点一线，上班我就加班，然后下班呢我回去卧床，然后躺尸，然后呢玩手机，他觉得很自在。但反而说啊，我要去拿出我的一些思维，然后拿出我的一些心思去搁在对方的身上，去想对方的体谅对方的一些事情啊什么的，他其实对他一个长期可能单身的人来说，他是一个蛮不适应的状态。
Although 996 has been officially outlawed by the Chinese government, Chinese workers are still toiling an average of 48.7 hours a week, compared to around 36 hours by their counterparts in the US and the UK.
So the labor law now would require the company to pay extra for the additional hours those workers work when it comes to the execution stage. For Chinese companies, the 996 culture is still quite prevalent. And as a result, I think we're now in this sort of like a stalemate when it comes to the reality in dating.
From Japan to Korea to Singapore, many Asian countries have tried different ways to reverse the flagging marriage rates. There have been more failures than successes. So, it remains to be seen if Chinese policies and the youth's desires will be a happy marriage.
让国家、社会和政府来承担的更多，这就可以使得一些想结婚，因为经济条件不好而不结婚的年轻人选择婚姻。
For the government, they are encouraging people to have more children. They provide some cash incentives, but ultimately, this is something happened in the bedroom based on individual choices. It is hard to be pushed in different directions from the policy side.
其实从包括说甚至说更小的10后的父母，他可能从小他就开始去关注这个孩子的婚恋问题了，因为他已经意识到现在将来的孩子婚恋是个问题，所以从父母这一代他已经开始着急了。所以我就认为将来应该不会说是有那么难，就是大家都已经开始认识到这个问题，然后慢慢想去解决。
Meanwhile, for school teacher Jin, he is still single, a situation that has his parents feeling antsy.
我爸前段时间都跟我说要相亲什么的，但是我家里还是很尊重我的意愿，但是也仅限于这2年。如果说再过2年或再过几年的话，随着我的年纪也大了，我家人就是也会很着急，会就是希望我赶紧去找个对象，然后结婚，是这种情况。
Zhao Miao Miao, the finance executive, is taking a break from the dating scene.
我也有自己的社交圈，所以我的精神需求、我的精神世界是我自己能够满足的，而且我也有源源不断的东西进到我自己的就是生活里边，所以我现在暂时来说不想脱单了，也可能说更加的享受现在的一个独居的一种状态吧，就是这样一个情况。
For Hao, now that he has found his significant other, he and his wife are focused on their 4-year-old son. They are thinking of having another child, but perhaps down the road in the next 3 or 4 years.
那下一代如果每个人都替自己着想，各取所需，所谓精致利己的话，那这个未来在哪儿？这个国家的未来在哪儿？对不对？社会的未来在哪儿
？The Chinese government halted the release of youth unemployment data.
经济社会在不断的发展，劳动力调查统计也需要进一步的健全优化。
Just as joblessness among young people reached record highs.
我就记得这句话，梦醒了无路可走了。
How did the world's second largest economy end up here?
The Chinese government is very concerned.
Young and jobless in China. Insight, Thursday on CNA.
This September, soar to new heights with courage, contemplation, and curiosity. Meet the heroes of Asia's wildlife, trekking through the forests while battling crimes against Mother Nature. In a brand new season of The Last Defenders. Join the flock as they take on a journey that's bound to ruffle a few feathers. Get an inside look as the region's largest bird park settles into new nesting grounds in the Great Migration, New Eden. Bridging people one stop at a time. Take a heartwarming journey down memory lane and reminisce the best milestones of Singapore's beloved mode of transport, our lives according to buses. This September on CNA. Next time on Japan Hour.
ここは最強の家電を開発するために作られた特別なお店だったのです。しかしお客さんがしきりに感心していたのがご飯です。
すいません、しゃっきりでございます。5杯かな？私は8分前。ご飯がふっくらで。
Japan Hour, Saturday on CNA. Japan Hour is brought to you by Sumitomo Corporation. MUFG, committed to empowering a brighter future. And Zip Air, summer fares now available with daily flights.
Padang is a class 1 drop zone, the highest difficulty.
Take note the tree on the left and the tree on the right. If you swing, you want to be somewhere in the middle.
Last year I injured my back. Because I love parachuting, I will get myself back in the air.
Jump up!
It's going to take months of intense training.
This year's standard is race.
Keep close but prevent yourself from colliding.
To fly as close as possible will be very nice, but it's not easy to achieve.
We select Red Lions from highly trained military freefall instructors to participate in the display jumps.
Okay, ready, set, go, push!
They are the cream of the crop. Let us focus on really building that performance to a high level to achieve the final mission at NDP.
This week on Talking Point.
Resale flats will continue to be unaffordable to a large group of them.
The situation could change very dramatically, so therefore the long-term solution is really supply.
Introducing more restrictions has other social implications later on.
Join me and my guests as we discuss housing affordability. A special Talking Point forum, Sunday on CNA.
Is desire. Love is surprises. Love Link Perfect Match. Link Perfect Match. Only natural diamonds with grading certificate. Mason Jewelry.
This is Singapore Tonight.